Hello, and today we're going to be looking at using the analog 4 to parameter lock our modular synthesizer. Okay, today we're going to set up a very quick patch just to show you an example of some of the things that you can do using parameter locks on the analog 4. We're going to use braids and we're going to use meta mode, which allows us to use the FM input to change parameters per step. Okay, so let's set this up as fast as we can. Let's press function, CVA. I'm going to set this to pitch. I've already got a little small pitch sequence programmed in, so we're going to leave that as that is. This yellow cable, this is CVA, the pitch CV. This is going to go into the pitch input on braids. And we're going to take the audio out of braids and run that into ripples. Open the filter all the way up. And then take the audio out of ripples and run that into the Optimix. Then you're going to take the Optimix audio output and run that into the Echophone, and then the Echophone output into the spring rate, which goes into the analog 4. Close the Optimix. Because we're using the Echophone, we're going to want to have it clocked to tempo, and to do that we're going to use the analog 4, hold function and CVD, and we're going to choose clock. The clock lets you choose the length, lets you choose V trig or S trig, and also lets you set the voltage. Okay, so we leave this at default. The clock division is at 1, which is the normal 105 BPM of the clock. The other numbers will be smaller divisions, so we can get clock divisions via the analog 4. This red cable, this is CVD from the analog 4, so this is going to go into the tempo in on the Echophone. Okay, we're also going to want a trigger to strike our envelope on the Optimix. So we're going to set that one up on CBB by holding function CBB and set that to trigger. Okay, exit out of that. Take our CBB and run that into the trigger input on function. We're then going to take the end of rise out to strike the Optimix, and I'm also going to take the envelope positive out into the control, and I'm going to open up the filter a little bit so that we get a sort of strike and an envelope at the same time. Now we're going to take hold function and press CVC, and I'm going to set this to value 0 to 5 volts. Let's set this to 8. Okay, set to 8 volts and exit out. Okay, this white cable, this is my CVC. We're going to plug that into Braid's FM input. As you see, it already changed the preset because the attenuator is turned up. So now the value we can lock to steps on the sequencer to whichever we like. So let's hear it before we do any parameter locking. Let's just put it on a simple sound so we can just hear. Okay, here we go. Let's press play. Okay, there you go. Press stop. Now what we're going to do this completely randomly. To enter a parameter lock, there are multiple ways. You can do it live recording by tweaking the knobs, but we're going to do it the slow way. We're going to hold a step and then just turn the encoder and set a value. If you see, it goes black as it's changing to a different value. You can do this completely randomly. No idea what these results are going to be like. Could be terrible, could be brilliant. You never know. Okay, now when we play, we should get random presets from the Braids oscillator via the parameter locks on the analog 4. Let's press play and see what we've made. you have it. Let's attenuate this slightly so that we get a different selection. That's quite nice. Okay, and let's make this patch a little bit more interesting. What we're going to do is we're going to take our trigger input and we're going to put it into my mult. And we're going to take the mult back into function, obviously. And then we're also going to take a version of it into peaks, which is set to a tap tempo LFO. It's actually set to a random LFO at the moment. And we're going to take that random out of output 1 and we're going to run that into an attenuator, and then run that into the colour on braids. And then we're going to take the end of cycle from function, which will be slightly different timing to the end of rise, and run that into trigger 2 on peaks, and then take peaks output 2, again another random LFO, and run that into the pitch on the echo foam. So now we should get some random pitch modulation and some colour modulation on braids, as well as our parameter locks on the analog 4. Let's hear how that sounds. There you go, quite an interesting random little sequence going using the parameter locks on the analog 4. So one other thing that you can do using parameter locks, as well as live recording them by hand, you can also put what's called a parameter slide by holding function parameter slide, and that means it will slide between the values. So if you're creating a multi-stage envelope, for example, you could have a 64-stage envelope using the analog 4. You would probably want it to slide between values, so you can set which steps will slide. You can't change the settings of the slide itself, but you can have it slide, which is still quite cool. We'll do that here. In meta mode it's probably going to sound not so great, but just to show you, we'll have it slide on these 2 steps. Let's press play. You see there, if you watch braids, it'll slide very fast through them. Okay. There we have it. Parameter locking the analog 4, controlling our modular synthesizer.